these teams are going to be strong based on who's on the team, right? When you've got a lot of young players, decisiveness in the late game isn't quite there. When you have Beryl, decisiveness in the late game is all you have.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of hands in the bottom lane, but he knows where they need to be to pull out those clutch plays as the game goes on. I think ending it pretty quick sounds like a good idea.
Now, KT at blue side, we knew there's going to be a ton of jungle bans going into this series because you've got to target Raptor. He had a really good Lilia performance. Yeah. His Vi is fantastic, right? He will even pull out the Lee Sin. But on red side, you're a little bit priced into banning that Smolder away. You have to ban the Rumble away. Maybe we'll see an Ivern ban or a Maokai ban in this third slot, but Pyosik gets the other tree if he wants to take it here. Not necessarily first pick potential, but I don't really see Raptor picking up the Ivern. Banning that one away instead will be the choice here, and that does leave Pyosik his iconic Maokai. But they're going to go for the Ziggs instead.
I actually think this is really smart. We know that Deft has been playing this throughout his entire career. Not necessarily his favorite champion, but it's extremely strong right now. And this is kind of the development, right? You have to kind of work out whether you're trading the Maokai or using that as kind of your answer to going into these Ziggs compositions.
It's got to be a Tristana lock here. Ziggs Tristana, so powerful, but...
I was expecting Renekton, Wolf, because that's what we saw the entire series against T1. I love this out of Perfect. Not because, like, Jack Sejuani, you know, it does what it says on the tin, but this is a much more aggressive pick. And this is one that has so much more variance in how it can play. And if Perfect is playing with conviction and with confidence, that completely changes KT for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a really good point. This is going to push up the Cassante priority here for BNK. You still have to think about banning the Leona away here now as BNK for this Ziggs lane. But then you've got to take that Tristana likely away from BDD too. So ends up getting very tricky when they push this bio up. Talking about Sejuani, when you have this really strong top jungle duo, it's Pyosik's by far most played. You think about the Maokai, the Ivern, he's played 6 of each.
Oh, yeah.
They're his second most played next to 17 games of Sejuani throughout the summer.
Like this, things that you can block with a wind wall. Maybe not necessarily the Maokai or the Cassante, but they also have so many auto attackers, right? Like there's BDD's Azir taken away, something that kind of escaped us because he hasn't really been playing it more recently. But the Jack's value in this composition is bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's Sejuani, and she's not going to offer the AP damage to go, you know, for an AD mid here, but you already have the Ziggs in bottom lane. Tristana completely ignored here. When you have Jack's side lane power and split pushing, Ziggs pushing, Tristana pushing, you could get a few grubs that gets pretty insane, so I'm surprised they're going to leave that open. It looks like KT not necessarily interested in it, though, because they did prioritize the Jacks much higher. We will see the Poppy to come through here.
Yeah.
And this does kind of discourage the Leona pick because it has been kind of the soft counter there in the bottom lane. But that Tristana, man, I just cannot overstate how fast turrets disappear with these 3 champions that KT Rolster have. And their macro game has been so good.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of baffled that that wasn't banned. Part of the reason why I thought that they were planning on something else is because they'd be like, well, there's no way we're getting Tristana now. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, no, I know. I think they even were like, I guess we lock it. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. What's the trap? Where's the trap? Well, it might be sprung because BNK do have 2 junglers, 2 supports, and 2 top laners locked in right now. And so things could be all over the place depending on what is going to be locked in next. Beryl, the bull by the horns, perhaps, as his very famous Alistar is locked in.
Yeah, just playing it into the Poppy here is,
Yeah, this is what I was thinking. I could sense a cook. There was some stuff being made. And I actually think being able to step away from this very auto-attack themed playstyle does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do think that there are a few different picks they could have played in the bottom lane. Seraphine is the most common right now. We saw it a lot in the LCK. We've seen it in other regions. It's very popular in solo queue. And it is very strong into Ziggs because you can shield a lot of that burst damage, and it becomes very frustrating to actually use your Ziggs composition. My only issue with running this is it basically means you've surrendered any sort of lane control and map control to KT Rolster, and if they get grubs, if they get, you know, 5, 6 grubs is the nightmare, You're just always going to be behind the play when it comes to split pushing, especially if they play towards Perfect at all, and he ends up getting money here. Trying to lane swap with the Seraphine into the Ziggs also feels like you're not going to be getting anywhere near the value the Ziggs is going to be getting in said swap. So trying to put the Jax behind early will be very tricky to pilot here. And BNK just have not been that team that has a really cool, complex start to mid-game strategy team. They've been more about getting picks, they've been more about skirmishes, they've been more about, I'm going to out-hands you in this moment. And I think that if they can pull this off, if they can pull this draft off, this series just got a whole lot more interesting.
I think if they pull off this draft, Wolf, I'm going to take it an extra step. Then I think they win the series 3-0, because I think that this is almost unlosable. I think that the draft on the side of BNK, I don't want to beat around the bush. You know, I think that we have to be honest. I think they have 0 damage, and I think KT has about 11 different ways that they can get on top of Corki and kill him. And once that happens, where does damage happen from? Yes, there's a lot of sustain, but if you keep things alive to do nothing, nothing happens. Let's jump into the rift for game 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Okay, I might have gone a little bit overboard, but I feel like it was kind of...
not really. I just, you know, you said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, well, if they win with this, I mean, it says a lot about...
The elephant snuck into the room, and instead of ignoring it, we just turned over and yelled at it. As Deft is walking away. Holds onto his flash, he's fine.
Yeah, a little satchel start. That's all right. That's totally fine. Won't have to flash. We'll be able to back here.
And basically what I did was made sure that we evened out the series, because we pretty much just said that this is unlosable for KT.
Yeah.
And so now there is about an 80% higher chance that BNK win this game. The series completely still up in the air.
The fact that KT were able to get, you know, I mean, the Sejuani, that's one thing, but that is, again, Pyoshik's best and most played pick this season. Then they have the Tristana and the Ziggs, and then there's a Jax in a favorable matchup. It is just, it's all coming up KT. As Perfect is going to come over here and start annoying Raptor. They're lane swapping Deft to the top lane. Alistair still in the bottom lane here for Barrel.
And that's some popcorn chickens for Perfect here as well. He'll grab those. And Clear is just going to fight Deft just a little. There's no pool party Ziggs, which is another nerf to KT, so maybe we feel a little bit worse about how this one's going, as Barrel's just sort of wandering around here on this bottom side. Yeah. And we'll see how he goes after either Perfect teleports down there or Pyoshik gives him a hand or something like that. It looks like no dive is really being set up at the minute.
So at the same time as Deft is just going to push this out and then can TP bottom, they also deny Raptor a little bit of farm. They get Pyoshik ahead. He's got control of his part of the jungle right now. See Duro coming up here at level 1, trying to get something done here, but has no agency closer, doesn't have prio. And Barrel is just chilling. He's also not losing too much experience down here in the bottom lane, so this is feeling very good for him. There's that teleport. It's actually going to be from Perfect.
Yeah. Very interesting that they're getting in for Perfect.
Oh, no.
There's the flash. Gets it out of Henna as well in response. Not able to quite get the headbutt back into the waiting arms of Perfect there, but you'll take the Summoner Spell trade because Barrel still has one.
Yeah, he does have the Hex Flash. Now Henna being down flash, pretty frustrating for potential follow-up gank.
Wait.
Happen.
Do they also just get to freeze?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, there's no crap. This is a disaster.
Yeah, because now Henna has no flash, and this Jax will kill the Seraphine that's flashless if he gets on top of her. As Deft is melee range.
Of getting on top of them. Okay, just sidesteps. I guess that's how you do it. Just don't get hit, forehead.
And, you know, you mentioned KT having kind of the strongest earlier part of a new meta. This isn't, you know, anything that's very groundbreaking, but it is quite unique in how they've lane swapped by leaving the Alistair bottom, having the Jax teleport down into the Seraphine, and Deft just feeling very good about winning a lane into this Cassante. The Jax did suffer a little bit of lost experience, obviously being in a lane with 2 people, but they get the flash away from Henna. He doesn't have any big leads, and Pyoshik is getting so much value, and he's going to come up here for a gank.
Yeah. Short fuse, not quite stacked up here from Deft. Throws out the bouncing bomb, does not find Clear with 3 caster minions. I don't know whether this is dive territory, but Pyoshik will have you believe otherwise. As now picks up the turret aggro. Winter's Wrath does come down. Do they have the damage? The answer's no. Passive does come on through, but Deft almost just dies from one charged up turret shot. That is going to be the back coming on through. So double teleports now available for both Deft and for Clear. So not a whole lot to be gained or really lost in that instance.
Yeah, I think the big win here is for BNK, though, in terms of they had the teleport and the Jax is losing experience bottom side. I think that KT felt like they needed to secure that kill to make it worth it for the lost experience for their Jax there. And they do end up unsuccessful. Deft is going to teleport to the top lane, started walking, but then ultimately decided to TP, so they're under a little bit too much pressure there in the bottom lane to try to swap that back. And the Perfect already TP'd, he couldn't TP back to the top side, so that gank failing is actually pretty huge for BNK.
It's really interesting that they are making sure that they give Deft that solo experience. I mean, one of the reasons why there were mages in the mid lane for the majority of the times is that you scale a lot with levels, right? Like, it's not the same as 80 carry where you get a lot from items. Casters get a lot from levels as well. And so moving into that, I mean, Jax also wants levels, so it's not necessarily like it works out perfectly, but getting towards Mega Inferno Bomb a little bit faster, you know, these sorts of things could actually be consequential for fights around Grubs,
exactly. For example. And that's, I think, the main thing here is Deft is also going to be straight up closer to the Grub fight. He can just walk straight over to it. They're definitely going to contest this because they're the ones with the Tristana, Ziggs, Jax in their composition. It is really imperative for them to start stacking those up early. They do spawn here in 30 seconds. It's a Chemtech Dragon as well for the first Dragon, so feels pretty ignorable. You're feeling like you're high rolling if you're the Grubs chasing team as Duro.
Yep, Duro finding that angle there, does get the charge forward, throws out the ulti, does VOD, still holds on to the flash. I don't think he has to use it. Just rocket jumps eventually, and he'll be A-OK. So loses a bunch of health, doesn't have TP, and so we'll now need to cede a little bit of ground here to close up.
Yeah, and I mean, this is with the Grubs spawning in 5 seconds here. This is a really huge play from Duro to get VDD's ultimate half his health bar here.
Oh, yeah, great interrupt there on the headbutt. As now Pyosik is going to be free for the next little while to throw out that Arctic Assault, but not going to actually go for any extra engage onto Duro here. As Raptor starts this up. Control wards down, Banana Brush battle, but it looks like BNK should be able to secure this unless Deft can get something done. Level 6 has actually been picked up, but isn't going to offer a Mega Inferno Bomb right now.
Yeah, if he had vision, I think he definitely tosses it in, tries to steal it. But
yeah, I was expecting something like that to happen.
I mean, he technically still could, but it would just be a dart thrown in the dark at those Grubs. So doesn't it go for it? But you hear a big cheer in the crowd on the BNK side. 3 Grubs to their composition is, it's whatever, but denying that from KT's composition is a massive win.
Oh, yeah. I think that, giving those up would have been really, really rough, so really good utilization of the chunk onto BDD. It's not often that you see, no flash being burnt, no big cooldown outside of Buster Shot being used and still being able to get something this big from it. Really well played there by BNK, understanding that a few extra buttons is going to give them that angle.
Yeah, and this is with the Ziggs, controlling ranged into top matchup on the top side. KT were pretty well set up for that, but Duro makes a pretty heroic play there. And, now we're looking at gold leads kind of fizzled out here for KT. There were a few hundred gold ahead, but after those Grubs come in, it's kind of evened up here. And 3 Grubs are still available for them to take on the next Grub set in 3 minutes time, but you really wanted to stack, 5 of them. 4 is worst case scenario, but 5, 6, that's when you're really ripping those turrets off the map. So being able to slow this game down here for BNK is absolutely what they were looking for. Perfect still in this matchup down here against Henna, and is starting to, farm it up, but doesn't have any significant leads or anything like that. So we are starting to look for a posture around this Dragon. The one good thing about Chemtech Dragon is it means you don't have it as a soul, so it is going to be valuable in that regard to start stacking.
The best thing about it is that it may not exist later.
Yeah,
that's how it works. It's beautiful. Duro just going to pick up his buckler here, wandering around. BDD in the area, and of course, Steadfast Presence is very, very valuable, as Beryl might have to flash if he wants to look for an angle. Does instead decide to just throw a headbutt to the wind. Sometimes you got to do that. Trade some buttons.
Now Deft still doesn't have teleport, as a bit of a lurk.
Yeah, there's the ulti right on top of Henna. That is going to be, first blood should be coming through, but never mind. The encore comes down and Pyosik is going to die. Henna with the sickest of outplays.
Oh, so sick by Henna. Flashes and then reverses the ult, charms them, and pulls Pyosik under turret. Has the follow-up there. Pyosik goes down. And what looked like was a free dragon for KT. KT got greedy. They were like, oh, we get Henna here. We lock him down. Maybe he doesn't react to the ult. He doesn't flash. We take him out, and then we get the dragon. Instead, they lose all their health. Pyosik dies, and they give the dragon off of the play. A very big disaster here for KT Rolster. And, you know, it's like you said, you know, this draft feels unlosable, feels like a huge gap, feels like they've got all the tools. And some mistakes coming through here in B&K, getting some big incremental advantages in this game.
Yeah, and look, we don't want to overstate it or anything. Gold is even, it's a Chemtech Drake. It's not exactly end of the world for KT. And I think as the game goes on, you know, they have a little bit more flexibility in ways that they can win the game, right? Like, you're going to generally win side lanes if things are in a relatively even state. You've got wave clear for days. Like, it is a little bit more comfortable, but that does not stop this from being an absolutely amazing play.
All right, so he's stunned. Shields, flashes, ults, gets the charm, gets the root. Pyosik still under turret. Pyosik then flashes while still in turret aggro.
야, 죽냐, 이게?
Yeah.
Dead, what?
He's not real happy with it.
Nope.
And, yeah, Henna just handled it well. Also expected that the play was going to be made there. And, just handled it super well. I mean, one more tick of his health and he's dead before he can actually make that play, but he does it with the last sliver.
It might have been that if the passive wasn't stacked up, he might have just been dead.
Yeah, I mean,
managed to have that one available. Certainly a game of inches, but he played it so well.
Consider also the top dive was also just one, you know, just one little extra auto to kill clear, and they fail there, they fail on the bottom side. B&K now contesting the second set of grubs here. KT would not be happy with giving all three. I don't think they will.
Yep, no encore available here from Henna for the next little while. That might be a way for KT to try and get themselves in here as, all right, Keeper's Verdict does come on down. That's going to get rid of the cow as they're looking to try and get themselves a fourth grub. But the reset does come through and the poke is there. Something that B&K are struggling to deal with. The ulti comes through, a little bit of over-aggression maybe as the Buster Shot comes out. Not going to be enough to kill off Raptor, but it is at least enough to send the message of please get the heck out of here.
Yeah, BDD looks like he should be able to save this plate, no problem. There's a thinned out wave here, and this is going to be Pyosik getting the last of these grubs. Does have his smite available for this one. And Duro, there's nothing really he can do over here. Just going to come over and be annoying, but not going to be able to deny this final grub. We'll clear this vision. Pyosik saves his smite for the final one to make sure that Raptor comes in. Won't be any trades. He already used his smite earlier. So KT will even up the grubs. And 3 grubs still going to be valuable for this composition, but we're not going to be seeing Voidlings or anything like that.
Nope. And as far as plates are concerned, it's only this one in the bottom lane for B&K. So as far as, you know, the Ziggs test, it's not exactly flying colors here for KT so far in this game.
Yeah, the top plate is nearly down, but nearly doesn't count. And yeah, they lane swapped, and there's, you know, turret protection there on the top side for lane swaps, so didn't end up getting that much value. Didn't really push that much into clear when he was in that 1v1 on the top side. So Def does have his Luden's Companion. He is stacking up a tier right now, and I don't think he will be looking to build Seraphs this game, but just wants the extra mana.
Yep,
and it's going to make someone on the desk maybe a little bit unhappy, but at the end of the day, not too terrible of a start here for him, but not the start you were looking for. And the lack of grubs means that once he starts getting unlocked to satchel turrets, he's going to have a little bit of a slower time with it than he would otherwise have liked.
Yeah, and at least does manage to even things out, right? Like, no one really has that extra grub advantage, but they did have to fight for it. You can see now it is a very slim lead for B&K, especially considering the fact that they managed to pick up that Drake. The thing that's an issue to me is that I'm still trying to figure out how team fights are going to be won. And yes, they have a lot of CC, and if they can manage to let Closer do exactly what he wants for an entire team fight, they could win, because there is a lot of lockdown under single targets. The problem is, KT on the other side have a lot of ways to just kill Closer.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to come down a lot to Duro and what he can do to try and disrupt KT's composition, stop these engages from happening, keep this Corki alive, and keep the threats away.
And oftentimes when you have Tristana in the mid lane, she's a secondary 80 carry threat, but in some of these drafts you've seen here in the regional qualifiers, it's with a Ziggs, and so you have a lot of split push. But when the burst of the Ziggs is denied by a Seraphine and Locket here that Raptor has picked up, a lot of the time you really only are that single threat, and there's nothing really to empower the Tristana. There's no Ivern to shield her. There's no way for her to just pop off by herself. So it gets very scary if she doesn't get the agency to actually team fight and get those resets. So KT need to be super proactive themselves.
Ooh, a little bit of a sidestep there as BDD gonna have to jump away from Closer. Stacks up the bomb though, and now Barrel's making his way in. To Narnia goes the Glacial Prison, but the bouncing bomb is pretty good. There's the flash pole on top of Duro. He's burning down, but does get the flash. The Nature's Grasp to keep them all caught up. And Perfect just teleported in. The Keeper's Verdict just on top of the cow. And in these extended fights, this is where Seraphine can shine as the Q is going to connect, but the headbutt to save Depth. BDD able to jump his way out, and the Mega Inferno Bomb goes down. Is anyone gonna die? Yes, finally the tree is gonna be cut down, and Barrel, you can see, he could see it, the angle on the Pulverized, but the turret is just gonna kill him. And Henna once again in trouble. The Buster Shot's gonna do it. BDD locks down the kill onto the Seraphine, finally getting KT's revenge.
BDD has just been so good at seeing these angles, knowing the calculations on the Corki, on the Tristana this year. Does end up clutching it out. BDD's sacrifice not in vain. This is kind of a weird situation, and I think if this hits, this situation it becomes way worse for BNK, but it misses, and yet still, they have to use the Nature's Grasp defensively. The ult here from Duro is going to get Barrel away, but not that far away. And then they continue to try to force the issue because they don't want to give the Herald up into this composition. This knockback from Barrel was absolutely fantastic because BDD still has his jump and they can re-aggress. Now, when you have Counter-Strike in this composition too, BNK cannot continue to push, they cannot continue to group, so even when this ult comes through onto Barrel, this knockup ends up being so fantastic. Satchel comes through here as well. Now look at BDD, realize, you know what, I do have the damage, and flash in for the ult, but I think BNK playing that last fight and that setup so disrespectfully, I think that could have even gone worse for them than it actually did.
Yeah, I think if Barrel had have actually got like the perfect Captain Jack on his ultimate through the Encore, which I think he was like trying to do, he could have even got the Pulverize onto all of them in the end as well. So it could have been even better. But still, of course, Barrel's going to make that play, tank that turret, and die. That was always going to happen. But the fact that the cleanup did come on through by BDD.
It looks like it's Infernal.
Oh yeah, well it's a very small amount of Infernal. It's just the sunset of the Infernal. This is, you know, one of our last days of the LCK before we get into World Championships mode, and so the light is really going out for our Infernal souls.
It's a waning Infernal Drake.
It's definitely very waning. We're not going to have the crazies out tonight, Wolf.
No,
that's all I'm saying.
Well, it is very good for both compositions, but I would argue stronger for KTs because of the amount of ranged poke they have. If they end up getting the Soul, the Ziggs bombs really hurt. Can be good for a lot of different champions on the side of BNK as well if they're able to lock that down, and does give the Seraphine a lot more damage. But, you know, I think the only dragon that would have been better in this case for KT would have been the Hextech.
Oh, yeah. And I think that goes on both sides. I do think that if it was a defensive Drake, then that's a bit worse for BNK because they don't need more defenses. We could see how long it takes for them to be whittled down and killed. I think getting a few Infernals might be able to answer some of the damage problems that we could be having here. It feels like a little bit of overkill for KT with Ziggs, Tristana, and Jax all being able to wail on their opposition. But they won't say no. As now Pioshik looking for Duro. Steadfast Presence is now on cooldown. Winter's Wrath comes in, but there's the Keeper's Verdict just to get rid of him. This should be the Rift Herald taken, though, because that Keeper's Verdict is so incredibly important.
I mean, Henna's teleport's coming back online, so if they had Keeper's Verdict, there's a world where he could actually get that back off, get his mana back, TP back in, and then contest. But because that was used defensively there for Duro, I think there's no way they can actually force this. I mean, they're putting Closer in topside, trying to clear the wave. There's that TP.
Oh, okay, it's a double TP as well. Both Henna and Clear are making their way in. Deft is looking to take a turret in the mid lane. But this double TP may not actually be able to get them anything as the reset does come through. There is mid-outer turret secured by KT. And they might even be able to get an honest 5v5 here if Perfect is going to teleport in. There is the flank angle, the Pulverize onto Clear. The Satchel's charged up. And look at the Counter-Strike value. It's gigantic. But so is the dead Jax now lying on the floor. Mega Inferno Bomb onto 4 is going to soften them up. But now they're able to keep them at arm's length. And yes, the Rift Herald does go down. And KT, they managed to pick that one up, but they do lose their Jax. and B&K do get out.
Yeah, I mean, so they end up giving the Herald technically here. Raptor does actually smite that one away.
Oh, he took it. Never mind.
And it looked like a good fight here for KT, but they didn't actually have enough damage in this one. So weirdly enough, this teleport, Henna actually mistimes the route here just a little bit too early, but then Duro still pushes the Jax into the wall and denies his Counter-Strike value. Would have been some extra damage with this bomb, and then maybe KT can actually follow up and get some exit kills here, but because they tunneled super hard, it means that actually they don't get anything, and Raptor gets out for free. As, you know, this ends up being Herald going over, but at the same time, what I loved about that play from KT is it looks like we are going to see this turret now in exchange here for closer.
Yep.
What I loved about that play for putting Deft in mid was the whole goal of the Herald is to get a turret, and then they're like, ooh, you guys double TP.
Yeah,
well, you get the turret anyways.
Yeah, you use Herald to get mid out of turret, generally.
And Deft just like,
what
well,
they did was
it.
they used fighting at Herald to get a mid out of turret. Perfect.
Yeah.
They just skipped a couple of steps. I think that's totally fine. Doesn't require a decent smite, and that probably feels good after what just happened.
Horizon Focus does come out here as the second item for Deft, so...
Oh, we're Leandri's fans here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even minded an Oblivion Orb. I think that that could have been all right, too.
At least he didn't go 7 second.
That's true.
At least he just kept the tier in the inventory.
It could have been worse. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. We'll see what he does end up building third. It better be a Leandri's for his sake with this Cassante to deal with, as well as a very tanky Maokai, Poppy, etc. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of health stacking, as B&K are grouped on this Dragon, but it's still a minute away. And we're just tossing out Seraphine abilities here as Closer will go back down to the bottom lane. And Deft doesn't have a mid-turret to threaten here, so you know, with the lack of objective for 45 seconds, we're just kind of tossing abilities.
Milling about, baby.
Just using some mana.
It's a huge lead for KT, for B&K, sorry. About 200 whole gold, which, you know, that's so much. It's neck and neck, by the way. That's what I was basically trying to say. There is nothing in this whatsoever, and we're starting to see now, you know, Perfect parked in a side lane. Doesn't have TP, though. He's on the top side, going to be chased after by Clear. Means that this should be a bit of a 4v4 around the Drake that's going to be spawning in 10 seconds' time. And it's Clear that actually has to pick up the wave. So first roam comes out for Perfect. Teleport is almost up for Clear, but they have a few seconds of leeway here on the side of KT.
Yeah, Perfect has the faster track, as you said, but doesn't actually commit to coming down here as KT are just trying to win this poke war with Deft. He's enjoying that extra mana right now, but it is running thin.
Yeah.
And they're not really landing much of that Ziggs poke here, so B&K just kind of sitting pretty here. Henna will have to clear this. Those are going to push bottom wave, and like, I mean, nobody's contesting.
Yeah, well now the teleport is coming in. Clear does get his one back up and available, and Pyoshik is just out of there. They're just going to give over the Drake. Keeper's verdict does, you know, just get canceled there by Duro, holds onto it. Doesn't feel like he needs to invest in it. I think KT probably could have tried a little bit harder there because Perfect, his TP just comes back up now. A burst on the Drake might have been a way to actually pick that one up, given how far away the teleport was.
I mean, they allowed Closer to free push that bottom wave and then rotate over and get the Dragon. They had the TP coming up for Perfect. They could have played around it. They could have tried to deny B&K entry and continued the poke, or Index like you were suggesting, which I would have done as well. Just try to burst the Dragon down and force them into an uncomfortable fight before that Cassante can join, which you had full vision of, which you were tracking. I think KT really dropped the ball in this one, but a good punish by B&K. They still have that very razor-thin gold lead, but that Dragon lead feels so substantial. We're looking at a very impactful soul, plus the individual Dragon itself, and they're even going to grab this turret here.
Yeah.
KT kind of getting run around the map.
Yep, 4 people. It is going to be a trade because, of course, Perfect was able to take that top out of turret earlier on, but this Gromp could be going over to B&K as well, grabbing a little bit extra. As now, DDD just catching the wave that does get shoved on through, and it's starting to look like KT are getting a little flustered.
Yeah. I mean, Perfect had TP, does hold on to it, gets the turret, so it's a trade of turrets, but it feels like one that B&K kind of just stole away here, and KT didn't really contest that much, didn't have enough control of their jungle. And you know, now we're going to get Closer's TP here, but it saves the bottom side turret. This Jax is not going to get that free side push here. Doesn't have a turret to fall back on either, so this is going to get a little bit uncomfortable here. Just as an update for everyone, the Drake timer was incorrect, so we removed it and we will look to fix it.
Yes, it's not actually the twilight hours of the Dragon, so we are just, we've now just cancelled dragons. There are no more dragons in this game. not actually true. It is still going to be coming up. We'll just make sure that we get the timer fixed up as another Keeper's Verdict comes out. Just a little bit of zoning there as he waves the hammer around. Shelly not going to really do too much as this turret still sitting on about, 40% health or something like that. BDD now looking for a bit of an angle to head back towards the top side and continue farming things up. So Tristana Jax in the 1-3-1 seems to be the play, and you keep Deft in mid lane, endlessly clearing out waves. And I don't know what B&K can do to stop that from just meaning KT can slowly but surely get advantages, but so far so good on the side of B&K, to be honest.
I think Pioshik has to try to play towards the bottom lane here. Right now they have Perfect down there, but they have all 3 teleports. They could definitely swap lane assignments because playing through bottom lane, that's the gold you can get right now in between these dragons here. You're down a dragon. You want to play through bottom side anyways to get that vision to actually fight that next dragon to even it up 2-2. See, Pioshik is pathing down there now. They even have BDD coming over here, hidden on the map right now because the wave was pushed topside. And KT are very well set up for this. Ideally, they'd like to get both of those objectives, but B&K will come over and deal with this, you have to imagine. Unless they want to try to trade for an early Baron. It's 25 minutes in. They don't have vision control there. B&K kind of missing the mark on this one, not realizing that KT would be grouping bottom side here, and it looks like they're just going to lose this turret because they already got top, and they're not grouped for mid. They don't get much in return. They are going to start that Baron, but again, it's on vision. All those TPs are still up for KT.
Yep, they're going to be teleporting in to try and get this one done. It's going down a little bit faster than I was expecting, but still not the fastest of Barons here at 25 minutes. Deft does have that Mega Inferno Bomb up and available, and the damage that this Baron does right now is a lot larger than what B&K can sustain through, so they are just going to back away. They get those teleports, though. Yeah,
they get the TPs. They'll have to use one themselves to try to protect this mid turret, though, and this is the power of this comp, even with only the 3 grubs. Clear has to come over here and clear this, otherwise Deft just rips that turret off the map, and then they take all that extra gold as well. They got the bottom turret, so yes, they had to use TPs, but they deny the Baron relatively easily. Didn't set up a ton of vision around Dragon, and now B&K without vision on this Baron are like, well, guess we have to come back over here, as we don't want KT taking that one away from us. They don't have a ton of damage to do it just yet, and obviously Trist is showing topside, but they still want to come over and contest vision. The real prize, though, is in 40 seconds, that next Dragon. That's the one that both of these teams absolutely will be fighting for.
And it's now a full moon of an Infernal Drake as well, which is absolutely gorgeous. 30 seconds time. Soul Point would be gigantic if B&K can get it. Because one thing that KT does have is inherent tempo, just based on how their composition works. They clear waves faster, they do Barons faster, they kill stuff faster, so that they can get those rotations a little bit quicker on the map. I think B&K has been playing ahead of what their comp is capable of as far as being able to keep up with the macro.
Absolutely.
But KT, they cannot give up this streak because then you just get it for free. If you have the Soul Point, you can run your opponent around the map. And I think Pioshik needs to find some of his confidence back. I think that that first play where Henna kind of made the fool of him is kind of in his head.
For Ziggs also with the Void Staff and not Leandri's isn't doing all too much just now.
Raptor taking a bit of damage here is Perfect going in. Let's see whether Pioshik's smite button is going to work out. Well, it's not going to matter because he's just evicted from the pit. The Encore going to get flashed out of the way there by BDD. And now KT, they need a team fight if they're going to win this one. Pioshik making his way back in. The big one's flying down, but I mean, I don't think KT was ever really going to die because there's not a lot of damage, but still, there will be damage after an Infernal Soul is picked up.
Yeah, I mean, Deft did some poke, onto Raptor, but it doesn't matter if Duro's just going to end up ulting your jungler away. You can't contest the Dragon. And Duro, I mean, he's 0-0-2, but I feel like he's had such an impactful game on this Poppy, from the mid play to deny those first grubs. Several ultimates to disengage, this one to secure the Dragon. Just been so big on the Poppy. As watch this again, Pioshik trying to get in here. A lot of damage put onto Raptor, but his kites it back, has the Seraphine shields for the bomb, and then, jungler's gone. That's a problem. And the BDD is forced to flash as well here. That could have been a winnable fight here for B&K if BDD actually gets hit by that. So feels priced into the flash here, and the health bars are just so low. And a lot of the poke didn't land for Deft before the fight started, so even though a lot of it landed onto Raptor, he has the Locket, he has the Seraphine shields, and that ult isn't just going to be a free win button in this game. So he went for the Void Staff, which, again, we usually like the Void Staff, but in isolation, if there was a Leandri's on top of it instead of that Horizon focus, a lot of that poke could have been long-term, longer damage, but he has to land it too, so it's kind of whiffing.
Yeah,
I starting to feel like KT should have had the better draft here, but the piloting, giving us some question marks.
Hasn't quite worked out, although Duro now in a very uncomfortable position is going to flash, and that is going to get him to relative safety. Mega Inferno Bomb! And that'll finish off the kill onto the very frustrating Poppy. I just don't know whether this really changes the tone of the game, though, because yes, Baron is up and available, but this death timer is not very long for Duro. He is very, very fast.
Yeah, and, you know, BNK have all their ults up, and they're happy to continue to contest. And there's no Mega Bomb here for Deft anymore. Used it for the kill. So I don't think they can start this Baron up. It's just a little bit of extra gold Deft will pick up, so significant in that way, but not game-changing. We need to see KT win a decisive fight on this next Dragon. That's what's really going to be likely the deciding factor in this game, as Barrel's angle here is fantastic. You know, we have to talk about his Alistar being really good this game. He's found some great angles. He's had some really clutch engages, finds Duro. But again, like you said, not too consequential.
Yep. Deft just throws a book at him, and he does go down. One of the cool things about this skin is that your ultimate is you throw a big book. And that's, I don't know, kind of like that. Changes things up just a little bit. Water balloons, I think, are probably still the best, but big book to head, kind of funny. So, 3-3. There has not been very many kills this game, Wolf. It's somewhat disappointing. I was expecting a lot more action, especially because I was expecting BNK to play dive compositions, playing to that fast and loose playstyle. This is as far from that as you can possibly get with this very slow and steady. Pretty much, I think what this composition is epitomized by is the nature's grasp sort of rolling by, you know?
Yeah, and
that just doesn't feel BNK to me.
It also doesn't feel very BNK to press a lot of shield buttons. But they're doing a lot of shield buttons between the Seraphine and the Maokai, as we're just fighting for vision here. And look, KT haven't been able to get really control over the map. If they can get Baron, this comp is going to really... Okay, Raptor.
Yeah, he does have the Twisted Advance. Great steadfast presence once again here from Duro, who's been playing out of his mind on this Poppy.
If they get Baron, this comp really just takes all over the map completely, like so fast. But without it, you know, they're still just fighting for Prio here for this next Dragon. And they just haven't been able to find angles here onto BNK. BNK just grouping as 4. We're kind of K-ramming a little bit here, but it favors BNK as long as they can manage these waves and then have the faster track for this Drake. And they can win the team fight there because KT's team fights haven't really been set up very well at all this game. BNK looking a lot more confident with their composition. Starting to feel like we're looking at this fight here decides who gets the Baron, because they're going to have to commit into the fight. You lose this fight, you lose the Dragon, you lose the Baron. If BNK gets Soul and Baron off of a decisive team fight here, even though KT have a Goldie right now, they're no longer going to be in the driver's seat. This is such an important moment. 30 seconds away from it. We do have a back here for Duro. He has just enough time to get back to this Dragon. He does have his ultimate online. Raptor set up with his as well. This is basically the fight.
Yeah.
Go on.
They have to do it here. It is going to be a back coming on through. Perfect does complete the Zhonya's Hourglass, actually.
That's massive.
That is a big one. Might be able to play in that front line a little bit more. And KT, they have to be the ones that head towards the Dragon. So now this makes the most sense. BNK moving towards the Baron, wanting to deny that one as much as possible. A pretty, I guess, conservative teleport here from Closer as he makes his way in. And BDD is just going to do the Dragon by himself.
That's one of the great things about Tristana. If your opponent is just trying to trade objectives and going, come at me, we have control, then the Trist just solos the Dragon and you get nothing.
Yep. Really nicely done there from KT. Kind of highway robbery here. That is going to put them back onto relatively even footing for the next 5 minutes.
Closer also just teleported back to mid, whereas again, KT have all of their teleports online, so could even just continue to contest vision and put someone in the side lane.
Yeah, it's the conservative teleport that really did not really do much for BNK, unfortunately. And I feel like they've been playing on the edge of the right amount of aggression throughout this whole game, being able to push KT just enough to be able to just take more from each situation that they've been given. That was the first time that KT kind of out-macroed them.
Yeah, and BNK have a comp that is so amazing with turn. You have Seraphine, you have Maokai, you have the Poppy ultimate. So if you can actually set up first on an objective like this, feels great. But if you don't have the damage to start it and KT call your bluff, they have really good side lane champions and they have teleports. So BNK can try to trick KT into fighting into this choke point of the Seraphine all they want. If KT don't take the bait, they're eventually going to start getting more and more of the map. As you can see, BDD in the bottom lane, pushing that one through. Ziggs clearing mid. B&K matching decently here, but they don't have the advantage they once had on Drake control because they tried to force that Baron take, and KT just did not take the bait. They put BDD over there very calmly, and we wait for the next Infernal.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. But the thing is, when next Infernal rolls around, BDD might have 4 items, you know, and some shoes. We'll have Deft moving closer and closer towards that Rabadons, and we were sort of, you know, saying mean things about the Void Staff pickup. Void Staff Rabadons is, you know, just a lot of damage.
Yeah,
like,
once
you will just have a lot of damage if you completes those items.
Yeah, once you have the full build, it ends up being hard to criticize what it is in its entirety. It's some of the costs along the way, but we gotta skip the along the way part.
Yeah, there is one bit of the along the way that I think that Ox will still have a problem with, but we'll let him do it. He can dissect it.
Yes.
And we'll let Deft be for now, as this gold lead is just going to look like the patient died. You know, like it's just flatline, straight up. This whole game, it has not really moved at all as Raptor is in trouble. Now the Twisted Advance is on cooldown as they get rid of the damage. So that means that Raptor should be alive, but they now lose Nature's Grasp and the Keeper's Verdict, 2 imperative ultimates for this next fight. Not for the Drake fight, but maybe for a fight around a Baron. As Drew, once again, Steph's presence is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Perfect can actually, he has Zhonya's, he can just trade with Clear like this and go all in on it because they can TP to help him during that Zhonya's. And then he can obviously just TP over to the Dragon if KT actually start that one up. The fact that Closer doesn't have it is so frustrating they can't actually have him in that bottom side lane. Because he used that TP earlier, KT almost have full vision control over this Baron, but they just want to use it as a pressure point to keep B&K on the top side of the map because that real prize is in 2 minutes. If the B&K do not respond to this lack of vision, then they will lose the Baron. I mean, there is so much damage on this composition now with this Tristana especially, and you know, you and I talked about it in draft. We thought that this Tristana Ziggs would get way further ahead than it did. They only got 3 grubs, but you can see the power of it here in the late game, despite the lack of early game here for KT. It's just so oppressive. Add the Jax on top of it, and even though B&K played really well, and yes, it's only 1,000 gold to lead here for KT, you can really feel they're behind on the play. Those are getting that teleport back up will really help relieve some of that pressure, but B&K need to make some decisive calls here.
And this is the thing, right? Because we kind of stated it from the very beginning. The tools that KT has, they're the ones that should be able to get them ahead in this series. Hep-up hold onto Raptor. They can't lose the jungle. Oh, no! B&K, they lose Raptor, and now they will lose Baron as Deft trying to satchel away, and he will be successful in doing so. And a teleport to come through from Closer. B&K, it's now time to put the pedal to the metal.
I mean, they got a teleport trade onto Perfect to try to, you know, force them to come back so they can defend their mid turret, but now KT are just like, all right, cool, all things are known. I have all this, I have all information.
The timing as well, Wolf, is just the worst.
Yeah, because
there's 44 seconds on the Drake as well.
Yeah, Baron straight into Drake is what KT are asking for here.
Keeper's Verdict is now back off cooldown right now from Duro, but the Baron, it's just dead. And now the reset is going to be possible, the reset up for this Dragon, and KT, they have a Baron on top of it with this composition. Oh, it's devastating here for B&K. They were keeping it together for so long.
And they really didn't have to use anything to get that pick, so they're still set up to contest this Dragon. B&K are like, well, hopefully they just push with Baron, right, and we get the soul. KT are not going to just give you that for free.
Yeah, well, Pyoshik is actually getting closer and closer to dying here, standing in this front line. It's not exactly optimal, does have the Warmogs up and available. As B&K, they do get first position around this Dragon. As, all right, KT, can you actually find any of the angles here as Nature's Grasp does come down? Mega Inferno Bomb has come in. That is the Infernal Soul. As Deft trying to get that damage down. They get rid of the Jax. BDD's at full health, though. And over he goes. Perfect execution is not the name of the ability, but perfect just executed Closer. And now Deft is looking for some bouncing bombs onto Duro. Yes, you got the Infernal Soul, but no, I don't think you're going to live through it. As KT, they don't get the couple of stragglers there as the teleport out does work out. But still, there is a Baron rotating around KT and they lost no one.
Yeah, so now to be fair, I think that this is about as well as this could have gone for B&K, honestly, because they're able to get the soul. They are going to have that potential Elder fight here. And also, because this fight ended up taking a pretty long amount of time, it really withered the Baron opportunity here of KT. So it feels great when you have Baron right before Dragon, because you can use that for prio. They didn't actually get the prio away. Yes, they get the kill here, but the Dragon does go over. Really nice Keeper's Verdict again here from Duro. They're able to zone away the enemy jungler with that Nature's Grasp. Good play from Raptor.
But this is what we were talking about, right? You saw as soon as Closer died, B&K are like, yep, that's done. It's over. Let's get out of here.
And one more minute of this Baron should be able to at least get this inner turret, maybe even an inhibitor turret, depending on how hard they can push with this Jax in the mid lane and pull B&K back with that wave. But it is still a lot of money into KT's pockets. The question is, will this Infernal Assault with this composition really get the value you're looking for? You got Corki Poke that can proc it. You have Seraphine that can proc it. A lot more damage in this composition. B&K is not the Giga Infernal Soul comp by any means.
No, it feels a little bit like Infernal Denial, which certainly is still a good thing as Clear has to go in. He's pretty tanky as the Nature's Grasp comes down as well. They get rid of Pyoshik first. Out goes the Cow and Deft. He has to flash. BDD and Deft, they need a front line to fight around. And Perfect is in the mid lane, and he's going to take an inhibitor turret.
He's going to get this inhibitor turret.
Wow, what the?
Yeah, it's Jax, he hit some pretty hard.
That was big damage as well.
It was, and that's what the zone used in his inventory. He did go for Sundered Sky, and he has a QSS, so he's very safe on this Jax, but they don't end up really getting the oppressive push to inhibitors, but still, they got about as much out of this Baron as I think they could have after that Dragon delay. So watch this one more time. Pyoshik goes in here, unfortunately finds himself in the Q3, and yeah, it's just very sloppy. The single target here, it's slow, but it has a lot of chain CC on the side of B&K. Yeah. Even a tanky Sejuani is going to fall victim. Pyoshik going into that Q3 is what is his demise.
And I don't know whether this was like a call to say like, Pyoshik go in, because even if you die, we take 2 turrets, so it's K. Like, I don't know whether that was the call, but I wouldn't put that past KT.
Sure, and also like, you know, if you end up getting that pick onto clear, it feels amazing, and then maybe you even get more. But yeah, because the Jax is in mid, it's a very low-risk play, and Perfect is able to just capitalize on that instantly. Whee! As he does go for the Seraphs eventually here to finish off his build. And it's a lot of big burst damage that will go through a lot of the MR because of the Void Staff rather than the other MR item, which names escapes me, Crypt Bloom. So even stronger with this Void Staff over the Crypt Bloom, which is more popular right now. So
this feels like the maximum damage, lowest utility.
Exactly.
Just because like we would have really, like there is a mortal reminder, but BDD is sort of like pretty single target. You know, of course there is Splash from Explosive Charge and stuff like that, but I do still think that, you know, Deft would be the best utilizer of something like a Morellonomicon, but no one's going to deny the amount of damage that he's going to do. They just have to make sure that they kill him before they get all of their health back in a few rotations of spells. As Beryl's going to be spotted here on this ward. Big one goes down. Not really doing massive damage here.
Yeah, and let's not forget this is not Moonstone Seraphine. It is, you know, AP Seraphine with Rylai's, of course, Leandries, the Banshee's Veil for some added safety. And that shielding is going to put a stop to a lot of that burst damage from Deft, but just keeps getting to toss in his Qs and will eventually start chipping away. And then the Tristana gets one reset, one target gets low, BD gets that one kill, and we might be looking at a pentakill. I mean, it's that kind of composition, so B&K need to somehow set up for this Elder fight with control over choke points and look for that single target pick. If they can pick Pyoshik or Perfect with a chain of CCs like they did on the turret, again, it's optimistic to hope for that, but I think that's your best bet of winning this game.
Yeah, I think like they have to, it's all on Duro. Does Duro get the sickest ult ever? And that was a decent one, because now Beryl is all by himself. Doesn't have to ult though, and is just going to walk his way out. So never mind, Keeper's Verdict now on cooldown, and BDD rocket jumping away. So Perfect, possibly in a little bit of a rough position, but does manage to leap strike his way out. Closer will be able to eliminate that control ward as Henna. They thought that they may have had an angle there as Raptor taking a lot of damage. The Encore on the just one as Deft trying to get himself out of there is successful for now, but he's kind of out of the fight as Raptor extraordinarily low. Perfect trying to get into that back line as Duro pushes him back with the heroic charge. Beryl wants to save his teammate. Mega Inferno Bomb almost just kills them all. And now BDD is in range to get these autos down. The drive-by kill on the tree. That was so sick with the explosive charge delivery. And I think that KT just had that little bit too much damage as Henna is going to be focused and destroyed. And KT, it took them 44 minutes or something like that, but I think they're finally going to win this game.
It may not have been a Penta, but that is the exact type of team fight I was talking about. Def holds his bomb for so long, even though Raptor is definitely killable just to get the maximum value. Players just trying to buy time here.
That's a cute one. Bought an arm guard just to buy as much space as he possibly can. But there is a big minion wave, and there is so much turret damage with a Ziggs and a Tristana. This game number one, my God, was it hard fought. We basically called it from the draft. B&K put up such an incredible fight that in the end, it's KT.
In the end, it's KT. In the end, it's one big disjointed, mind you, but one big messy fight. And it is KT's as they push Raptors so low. B&K forced to kind of retreat.
I understand why Hirai looks so stressed.
Yeah.
Because I think we all are.
Yeah, I don't think this game should have looked the way it did. But look, Duro had a fantastic game of Poppy. Some of his later ultimates were just panic and used defensively, but I think the early and mid-game he played very well. They denied those first 3 grubs. There was a solid game plan there. Like, they clearly had a plan. This was not just, oh, I guess we play Seraphine here. Builds were good. I liked what they were trying to do with this draft, but don't give Ziggs Tristana to anyone. Like, literally anyone.
Yeah.
Def does 51,000 damage.
Really making 30K look very insignificant. That is over 1,000 DPM in a 44-minute game, ladies and gentlemen. But you can see this here. Like we had a potato until we got to like the last 10 minutes of this extraordinarily long game. It was so incredibly close. Almost B&K. Almost. It is now time for us to take a short break. Thankfully, this is a best of 5, so there's plenty more League of Legends to come. Space is going to break whatever that was down, and then we'll be back for game number 2 and see what surprises await.
공 조심. 괜찮. 나 피 좀 많이 까였고. 아, 얘 발키리 받았다. 빨면서 볼래 이거? 빼면서 봐야 돼. 나 길가 간다. 나 한 턴 살았어. 빨리 빼. 빼면서 해볼 수 있나? 야, 나 정면 볼 수 있어. 이거 천천히 봐봐. 야, 필만해, 필만해. 나 오목으로 피 채우는 중. 기다려봐. 야, 고르게. 잡았다 이거. 마운드. 야, 여기 볼 수 있어? 똑같네. 야, 슬로우. 끝낼만한데? 시야. 끝낼만해. 둘 다 노플. 다 노플. 이러면 끝날 듯? 아, 끝났어. 빡세냐? 아, 내가 엄청 나공 개대박 났다.